Is up, everybody? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another edition of the Agents of Fandom podcast. We are live right now. My name is TJ Zwarich. We're a little late coming in the live than we planned. I fell right asleep, and I have no idea how the hell it happened. I was asleep for literally like 3 hours. I thought maybe I was going to doze off for 15, 20 minutes, and then 3 hours later I woke up. But here we are. And maybe it was the episode that put me to sleep of Secret Invasion that we're going to be talking about. But no, it didn't put me to sleep because it was exciting. It was action packed. It just wasn't necessarily the cleanestly written show. But we're going to break it down with three agents today. And I'm joined as always by my co-host, my good buddy Adam Blevins. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm particularly excited for this to be the last instance of us talking about this show. I'm happy to be done writing about this show, which is really disappointing, because like a lot of people, I think I was really excited in the build up, and then I really enjoyed the first couple episodes. But for me, this has been just a spectacular faceplant down the final stretch. So I'm excited to be here with you guys, the three of you, to talk about this show and close this chapter. I'm not excited to talk about the show, but I'm excited to close this chapter and move on to something new for sure.
We got a lot of exciting stuff coming in the future with Ahsoka, Loki Season 2, the Marvels in November that we're going to be really excited to break down. So there's still lots of reasons to be excited about fandom content. And we got two agents to break it down here with us. One, I believe it might be his very first appearance on the podcast. Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing great, guys. Very excited to be here with everybody. Wish it was under better circumstances, but we're going to have fun nonetheless. I'm excited.
If I'm not mistaken, Mark, we've had you on for Marvel Madness before, but this is the first time on the Agents of Fandom pod, is it not?
It is. I'm so thrilled. Although I was on for the Barbenheimer podcast that has not dropped yet, so technically second time.
There it goes. So yeah, I forgot about that one. That's going to be dropping simultaneously with this one on your podcast feeds. So stay tuned for that one. And our other guest, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I know we've had him on before, and you may recognize his voice as the host, one of the hosts of the Fandom Academy podcast on the Agents of Fandom Podcast Network. CJ Darr, how's it going?
It's going well. I'm excited to be back here. First time since I believe August or September of last year for She-Hulk. So a long time. Very excited to be back.
All right, let's dive into this one. Can't wait to have you, CJ. We're going to talk some Secret Invasion and honestly just see where it goes. I got some potential theory ideas I want to throw your way before we get out of here as well. So before talking about the single episode, if you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple, all of those fun things. What'd you think of Secret Invasion as a whole, CJ? Before we dive into this specific episode, what did you think of the series? Where does it rank for you among the Marvel series?
So with the ranking thing, it's definitely at the bottom for me out of all of them. I think I even preferred What If more, but the show just feels like it was lacking a purpose at a lot of times. Most of the Marvel shows usually tackle like big issues like WandaVision surrounded grief, which was phenomenal. Loki, the power of free will. And continue with a lot of these shows. This one, I couldn't tell you what this series was trying to say. And I feel like with a lot of media, it needs to be trying to say something to keep viewers invested emotionally as well as in the action and stuff. And the performances were great. Olivia Colman was phenomenal. I think she's one of the best things to happen in the MCU in a while, but not enough to make this series a great one. I don't know how this series was even released with this.
It is odd because that's exactly what I've been saying too, CJ. It was like, what's the point? Why it's like all of these individual performances, some of the scenes are just chef's kiss, amazing performances. But what was the point of the show? And that's something I'm still kind of missing. Why this one? Why did they go with that? Mark, how about you? What did you think about the series?
It's just so disappointing because the first two episodes could not have rewarded my high expectations more. I was so excited for this spy espionage thriller. Samuel L. Jackson, doing his thing. I was really excited to see Emilia Clarke, join the MCU. And the first two episodes rewarded us. And then it was just slowly deteriorated. And similar to what you were talking about, TJ, the acting performances are really good. You know, Samuel L. Jackson is really good in this. Don Cheadle is fantastic. Olivia Colman, like CJ pointed out too, there are some fantastic individual performances, but just the story, it just deteriorated, and I genuinely don't know what the point was. I thought they were going to tell a larger story about the Skrulls, and I'm more confused now than I was before the series started. That's pretty much what it sums up for me.
Yeah, I think that was very, very well put. Each of these shows have had such a distinct purpose, with like WandaVision, obviously, as CJ described, diving into grief, but also turning Wanda Maximoff into the Scarlet Witch. Ms. Marvel turning Kamala Khan into Ms. Marvel. The only one that didn't fit that distinct kind of situation was Loki. And realistically, they followed the exact same formula that they did for Loki in this one. You just take Nick Fury and insert him for Loki, and it's like the first 5 episodes, we really thought they're going to dive into the multiverse, but it was a character exploration of Nick Fury. And then episode 6, they take it for a big turn that totally switches up what they were doing in the show. But it worked way better in Loki, and it seemed like it was way more thought out in Loki. Adam, what did you think about this turn the finale took? Carlos likes to say to us sometimes on when he doesn't like this, and I'm going, guys, just wait. Like, something's gonna come. Something's gonna come. Carlos is saying he's not wrong. He's just early. He's just early on it. And unfortunately, I think you were just early on this one. I was saying, like, come on, man, something's gonna happen. They're gonna reward us for this, and they just really didn't.
For the record, I take no joy in being right about what you just said, but you're right. There was nothing waiting for us, despite any of the optimism that we've been sharing over the last few weeks on this podcast, and even especially the last couple of weeks going back and forth on a little bit. It's just really disappointing that, like you guys said, there wasn't any point. They weren't building up to anything except this massive CGI fuck fest of a fight that looks awful, that lacks any kind of purpose. This finale stinks. Like, I can't get it's reviewed one of the worst MCU, I think the worst MCU project ever, rightfully so. Like, I know, and we've been talking about all the good things the show, you know, sure, there's a few moments in the finale, and Gravik and Faux Fury or Gaia, whoever it was, sitting there sharing a really nice moment. It's cool to see Kingsley Benadir just really get into his bag again right there. But it's like, I have to know what this means to enjoy it. Like, for me personally, with this meaning nothing, I can see these guys, everybody acting their ass off, but it just like, there's nothing to it for me. And it seems like to me this finale is way more interested in setting up what's to come, which I think we're going to talk about a little bit, you know, in the future of this episode. But I felt nothing except. He said, "What, Mark?
What did it set up? I don't think it set up anything."
No, I just think a couple of spinoffs. They were leaning into the idea of a couple of spinoffs that I think we're supposed to care about. Like, they had the idea that we're supposed to care about, but then they didn't do anything to actually make us care about them over the course of the show. So I don't know. I could not be any more down, not only on Secret Invasion, but just on Marvel in general right now. Like, I don't like the fact that this, like CJ said, the fact that this was even released, that this went through however many people that a Marvel thing has to go through to like get to the final line, and they saw it and were like, sure, looks great. Let's roll with this guy. That's alarming to me. And I hope anybody that's involved with this show, I'd never advocate for anybody to get fired, but I hope that people do some serious self-reflection that were involved with this show, that saw it through to the end, because this was just pathetic.
The finale, like, so I said in my tweet reaction that, like, the finale was quite exciting. It wasn't. I don't find that it was written in a way that concluded anything based on the story holes that they dropped outside of, like, just Gravik. But even that, I don't know about, and we'll touch more on that in a bit. But what I expect, I think one of the things that bothered me is, like, they market this as like this grounded spy thriller, and it wasn't that at all. But what the first half of this finale did, they actually kind of nailed that. Like, I thought they did a great job of what's going on? Is Nick Fury about to die? Well, we know he's not about to die. It's going to be the Marvels. And before the big CGI fight happened, and we don't know that Gaia is Nick Fury in that situation, and she's pretending to him. Like, that was, to me, some exciting subterfuge stuff. Nice things aren't what they seem, as they've really been trying to portray to us. But we hadn't seen that since early on in the series with what they did with Everett Ross. Like, what the hell's been going on with Everett Ross this whole time? He was such a big part, and then nobody gave a damn about him for the rest of the episode, the rest of the series. Like, so many small aspects like that just don't really pull together. But I did find it exciting.
There's something off of that too, with things that I feel like were just not mentioned at all. Gaia did not like grieve over Talos like much at all. Like, we hardly saw her like even bother to care that her father died. And she mentioned it like once in this finale when she was talking to Gravik, like, you killed my mother and father. Like, Emilia Clarke could have ate the hell out of an acting scene where she's grieving over Talos or her mother. We didn't get either of that. It was terrible. Like, that just should have been in the script.
And I think that is such a beautiful point, because Emilia Clarke could have absolutely ate, exactly like you said. In this, I keep comparing this show to Halloween-sized chocolate bar, because the stuff I'm getting is good. I enjoy it. Like, I like watching all of these performances, but the omissions take away from the story so glaringly. Having 30-plus minute episodes, it's just not enough to tell a story in the way that they wanted to week to week. If this is a movie and they add a couple things and they subtract a couple things, make a couple changes, it's very exciting throughout, with all of a sudden just like why'd they have to go that CGI that way for that finale? But that's really, really about it. First one I want to touch on, I was going to save this to the end, but I think I'm just going to mix and match them throughout. Is Gaia now the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe? Now, I saw a pretty funny tweet that it was like, these are all, like, there's no way we're seeing any of these people again. And it was like Gaia. It was Scar from like Hulk's son at the end of She-Hulk. It was Brett Goldstein's Hercules. Like, all of these other ones that it's like, we're not going to be, they're setting stuff up and we're probably not going to see it. I hope we're still gonna see it. But the one thing I find interesting is this is the list of people's DNA who Gaia reportedly got in the Harvest. Ghost, both super soldiers, Stephen Bucky, Corvus Glaive, Thanos, Proxima Midnight, Captain Marvel, Abomination, Mantis, Cull Obsidian, Drax, Korg, Ebony Maw, Frost Beast, Hulk, Chitauri, Valkyrie, Thor, Gamora, Groot, maybe some more. That's a lot. That's a lot, and they just, in theory, create the most powerful being ever. Do we think this could be something that's like temporary and fades? Is it all of their stuff where it's like she just gets the most base level, so all those people individually are way better? But Mark, I'll throw this one to you first. What's your thought? And it's kind of like a three-pronged question. What's your thought? How powerful do you think she is? And 3, what's the deal with her transformations when she uses Ebony Maw's powers? Why does she have all of his rings and all of his jewelry on? Is that part of the Skrull shape-shifting? Why does she have Drax's tattoos in her little baby muscle arm? Is that part of the Skrull shape-shifting? What's going on?
I mean, first of all, good for Emilia with the bicep flex. That was good stuff. But I mean, I hope that this. You had mentioned it before, TJ. I hope that this is a temporary thing. And one of the issues that we never used to have with MCU productions is they were the people who were always 10 steps ahead, and you had to reach to try and poke holes in their plots. And right now, I'm just feeling like, do they deserve the benefit of the doubt? You should be able. You have to be able to explain it away with, oh, the Skrulls' experiments weren't actually that effective. These powers are just going to be temporary. Like, that's probably what they're going to have to do. You can't have Gaia be this OP. Like she has to be nerfed if you want anyone to stand a chance against her. She is currently the most powerful person in the Marvel universe because the combination, that's like a Molotov cocktail of superhero DNA. Like, no one can go toe to toe with her. Good for her. But like, if you want to be able to tell somewhat realistic stories with her moving forward, where she's interacting with people, I mean, she's going to overpower everybody if she wants to. So yeah, my thoughts are, I don't like it, and it's. I get it. I saw people saying like, "Well, how else are you going to depict a super Skrull?" I mean, you could have been a little bit more conservative. No, like you could, like maybe give her like 3 or 4 different powers, not like half the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like it's a little ridiculous, and yeah, like it's going to be impossible to have her in things moving forward if this is not something that is temporary, or maybe she can't control it fully. I mean, she looked like she controlled it perfectly in that fight scene. But I'm a little lost as to what they're going to do, which is a shame because I want to see Emilia Clarke back. Like, I would never want my Khaleesi to be outside of the MCU. Like, bring her back, but you got to fix this, guys.
CJ, that was one of the highlights. Is we now have a setup for Emilia Clarke and Olivia Colman to show up more in the MCU, so that's good. But how is Gaia going to be showing up? And do you think she's now the strongest being in the MCU?
I think Wanda Maximoff is the only one that stands a fighting chance, to be honest. Because I would maybe Strange if he like continues to power up like he's doing. But at the
He
moment,
can help Wanda. He can throw some crimson bands of Citarac around her legs while Wanda gets in that mind.
I don't understand their thinking here. Let's just give one individual every fucking Avengers powers. Because like once we get to Kang Dynasty, if she's not there, like what's the fucking point? Like she could solo Kang in like 10 seconds with all that shit. Like all the Avengers and then her. Like Kang looks like a joke, especially after what we saw with him in Quantumania. Like he ain't gonna do shit against that if he loses to fucking Ants. Still salty about that. But I'm excited to see where her and Olivia Colman go. I think maybe them meeting up. I think Olivia Colman being a friend of Val would be really cool, and I would love to see the interactions between those two. I think that can make sense for maybe like a Thunderbolts, but I don't know, man. This is wild.
I really like the idea. I mean, I don't like it because I want more Olivia Colman, and this is something where else we're going to touch on, but a lot of the character deaths in this show I don't think were handled particularly well. But it would be, I think, interesting narratively if all of a sudden we see Gaia as just this big, amazing, powerful being. She doesn't get nerfed, and she is expected to be this all-powerful being, and then like a council of Kangs, multiple ones, just have some way to basically unravel her abilities and turn it into nothing right off the bat, and just kind of give us that Infinity War Thanos versus Hulk, oh fuck, he's that strong level of thing off the bat. I could see us getting somewhere with that, but it's not going to hit as hard unless we see more Gaia in between now and then. Adam, what do you think? Is she going to get nerfed? Is she the next most powerful being? What's going on?
Well, first, I want to say the Avengers need to up their fucking security because, first off, Ant-Man was able to break in and steal whatever he needed. And then now the Skrulls were able to get in there and not just steal like 1 or 2 people's DNA. I mean, it had to have taken hours to just – there's no cameras or nothing, nobody out there like watching somebody just scrambling, picking up DNA. Like, I don't even understand, one, how they got the DNA of every single person that was involved in the battle for Earth. Like, just when I kept thinking like, okay, this is already crazy. Then Gravik's hand, and then Gravik's hand turns white and he brings a rock come fly. Like, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? I mean, she is the most powerful. And I think that's like a grave mistake. I wrote about this in my review that now we got to this point, like CJ touched on a little bit too earlier, she has to be in every big crossover event, or it's going to be, well, where the fuck is she at? And we've seen them do this before, especially now throughout phase 4. It's easier and now cheaper for her to just not show up. And then you can just explain in a future, oh, she wasn't here because somebody will ask, well, where was Gaia? Fury or somebody will ask in the next crossover, well, where's Gaia? Why can't she make it? And he'll make some shit up. Oh, she's off world doing this. That's what's going to happen. She's just not going to be there. But like, it's so frustrating. This is another thing that I have to think went through just a whole group of people. And surely there was one person in the room that was like, guys, we're making a huge fucking mistake right here. Like,
Can
what are we
we
doing?
rewatch
And
the
then,
She-Hulk finale and just remind ourselves how we spend the whole time making fun of this?
yeah, I just like, I don't know if they just completely didn't think about it or think about adding context to anything. I don't know. It's frustrating. And it's like, I feel like all of us that are in this room right now could have put together a much better finale. And then the choice to not just add a new powerful character, the most powerful character to the MCU that we didn't even know 6 weeks ago. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense.
Has Kevin
think we're-
Feige been a Skrull since Endgame? Like, let's toss it out there. Maybe he has.
See,
I think
here's
I think we're getting to a point with the MCU where we're introducing too many characters at one time. Like, I think we
100%.
need to start going back to where we slowly introduce more, because like characters like Shang-Chi and Eternals, we have no clue where we are seeing them next. We have like a general idea, but it's been almost 2 years since we have seen them, and not even a slightest clue of when they're coming up next. I mean, King Dynasty is the obvious guess, but for Shang-Chi, but for the Eternals, that might not even be the case. So with Gaia now, we have no idea where we're going to see her, She-Hulk. I just think, especially with these Disney Plus shows, I think we may need to slow down a little bit in terms of adding new characters and maybe focus more on telling a cohesive story across the entire universe. Cause I think we're starting to lose that a little bit.
I'll take a devil's advocate approach to the Feige's been a Skrull since Endgame, because I'll say I genuinely believe there's only been 3 misses. There's only been 3 misses. You can call Quantumania, Love and Thunder, and Secret Invasion misses. I think basically everything else post Endgame has been good. Not perfect, but very good and on the same level as everywhere else in the MCU. And so it's not all the way since Endgame. Mark, you fucking hater.
I'm exaggerating, of course. Like,
People don't just watch the
Bergeron
MCU for good projects too, though. We like people watch the MCU for kind of like the connectivity and stuff. Like we don't just watch for like one, this isn't DC. We don't watch for one standalone project, this set in a different universe and all this stuff. Like CJ said, we don't know when anybody's showing up. Like in phases 1 through 3, when we introduced a new character, the chances are we were going to see them interact with the other characters that we've already met within 2 to 3 years. Now it seems like we're just introducing a whole pot of new characters, and we'll see them all in Kang Dynasty. Like that's how it feels right now, and that's like I'm not really interested in. And I know we're going to get a little bit of crossover stuff with the Marvels, but like I'm not really interested in just waiting to see all these characters interact like 4 or 5 more years and just continuing with like a big line of solo project. Like I don't know.
I do actually think we are now, and it feels like it's going to be a long time because of all this stuff going on with studios not paying their creators. So we got a couple of sets of strikes that are going to extend things, and in addition to that, you got Iger being like, we're doing everything wrong. We need to restart everything. When realistically, you probably just need to make a few adjustments. But having said that, I do think we are now in the crossover stage. Like, obviously, we have had some crossovers to the point of, like, obviously, Multiverse of Madness and a touch of it in Thor, Love and Thunder. But I think now with the Marvels, Thunderbolts, Captain America, every single one of these movies is going to start that connectivity process. Every single one of those movies is going to start to make this universe feel a little bit smaller. I'm very curious to see when that's going to start happening in space. That brings in got people like the Eternals and stuff like that. The cosmic side of things outside of the Marvels, I'm not sure about. But I do think this next step is when we're going to start seeing all of these people brought together. Before we move on from the Super Skrull thing, the one callback I did really like was Ghost. I thought that was really cool that she had ghost powers and it was mixing in there. But I could also see that being a bit of a Fury backup plan of, and this could become a huge issue for Gaia in the future of, we know Ghost's abilities are very unstable. She was struggling with that all throughout Ant-Man 2. Maybe that was a backup plan for Gravik of like, well, this is actually going to cause a bit of a self-destruction in you, and that's not going to go well. You're going to need us to stay alive. hopefully, like I could see that being something that happens to Gaia that maybe leads to all of her powers being brought back down, something like that, and it being because of the ghost DNA that's inside of her.
I just want to say real quick, I want to give a shout out to our other co-host Garrett, who's still on a little break right now. He brought up a really good point. He was like, so was Fury's plan with this when he sent him and Gaia and Sonya are talking, was the plan, okay, you're going to go to Gravik as me. You're going to get there. You're going to give him the stuff. You're going to, and here we get to, you're going to hope that he doesn't kill you before he puts you, or before he goes and does all this, makes himself, injects himself with the power of every single Marvel hero. You're going to hope he doesn't kill you before he does that. And if he doesn't, you're going to hope he leaves you inside the same machine that he powers himself up with. And if he does, then you're going to hope that he doesn't, the Super Skrull general who's been fighting, I know Guy has been fighting this war too, but like neither one of these are like overmatched against the other. Like they're both, so it's like, your hope is that then you're just going to beat, like you hope you beat him. That was the plan. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. And like Garrett, shout out to Garrett for bringing up that point.
Well, she wouldn't have been able to be killed by him because she still had the Extremis DNA before this. Like of all the plot holes, that really isn't one. I feel like she would, if Fury had or if Gaia had been shot, her cover would have been blown. But then maybe she just jumps into the machine. Like there's a lot of things to complain about. I feel like that might not have been one.
Well, but I mean, also though, I want to say like I feel like we saw. What's his face? Gravik dies from like a hole in the stomach, and he has Extremis.
Yeah,
like, so
that's the next thing I want to.
I don't think Gaia had anything. I don't think Gaia had anything besides Extremis. So I still think Gravik could have definitely, like, if he just like Groots her right through the heart, like he did to Pagan or whoever. I think that would have killed her personally, but I could be wrong about that.
Also, with the harvest, he said he got all that DNA from cleaning up the blood at the Battle of Earth and Endgame, right? Because Ghost wasn't there. Like
apparently,
that's where most of it came from, I think, because a lot of it predated that too. Like a lot of the Frost Giant stuff would have been from way before that. The Chitauri would have been from the Battle of Earth in 2012, and so I think that was where they were like, that's Thanos, and that's where we get Thanos, and Abomination was literally probably them just taking it from him when he was in jail. And so I think that was more of just like Thanos and Captain Marvel. Like that's where it was.
Did she get Howard the Duck's DNA? He was there.
The other, like it does pose so many other issues with that though, because it's like, oh, so you have Stephen Bucky's right there. You have somebody who could just recreate the Super Soldier Serum, and it's just available,
also,
and it's all good.
I believe the Black Panther DNA was there too. So like, she has the powers of the Black Panther too. Because it was on the side of the screen when all that was coming up as well. So like,
and you bring it, and so like that was another one of these things I wanted to talk about was like with Gravik. Again, it's like, why was this only a 35-minute episode or whatever it was? Because with all we've spent so much time on how Extremis is in their blood now, and they can just regrow stuff. He gets a hole in him, and he's done.
It doesn't.
Is he going to regrow? Is he still alive? We didn't see this conclude. Why aren't we chopping him up into itty bitty pieces and then throwing them up into space and spreading them out around the world?
Like, what did they spend all $211 million on? They had to keep things so short.
I like
Amelia Clark's paycheck, probably.
This is just me fully conspiracy. Like this isn't backed with anything. This is just full me speculating. I honestly think that maybe that was not a misreporting, but like misunderstanding, and that includes Amelia Clark's appearance in the next thing she shows up in, Olivia Colman's appearance in the next thing she shows up in, Nick Fury's salary in the Marvels and Secret Invasion. Like, I think that must, like, they just probably like took, wow, they're making this much, they're making this much, they're making this much, and I don't know, but either way, it's poor management of if it's accurate, then it's poor management of dollars. What was there was one more part. Oh, the other issue with kind of like the whole harvest thing and like this power set is, if you are bringing that to him, what was stopping you from just calling Carol at the beginning? If you're so worried about getting Carol's DNA, what's stopping you from just being like, Carol, can you just please blow a hole in this dude so we can be done. I guess maybe it's so you can find the extent of like
Wait,
where
I
all
didn't even
people
think about
are
that.
hiding, the extent of the whole Skrull invasion. But like, Carol, please just disintegrate this dude.
Cause like,
Anytime,
didn't he say he wanted to do it himself? Like, wasn't that the whole point of not calling Carol? And then he had
I know.
Gaia do it. Like,
That's the
any
whole reason he never called anybody. It was just like, this is personal. I have to handle this myself. Well, so much for that. That was the message this whole show was sending. This is Fury versus Gravity. They don't even meet in the finale. They met 2 times in the show, and they're looking at each other from across a battlefield. Like, it's
this is
unreal.
terrible. It's terrible.
I always think of the scene from Deadpool 2 in these situations where it's like, oh, almost it seems like the studio can't afford to pay all of you. It's like that's exactly it.
And it kind of, yeah, it brings us back to what was the purpose of Secret Invasion, because there has been a lot of criticism as to how the story was even handled with the Skrulls again, because the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, it flips the narrative on its head of they look just like us but they're invaders, which was a very obviously, like, I believe where the whole Secret Invasion premise was created was there could be Russian spies among us. It could be anybody during the Cold War in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. But it does give it does still hit a lot of negative tropes and stereotypes about immigrants' experience and them having to travel for refuge to different places of the world for a better life in different places of the world, and bigots like we see the vigilantes throughout the end of the episode, as well as the bigotry from the president, really pushing that agenda and empowering the people who are bigots to start doing things that they may not have otherwise been empowered to do before. And I believe it's not up yet, but I believe our own Carlos Freites is writing up a great piece about this as well. And that's something about the show that has been very heavily criticized, and I don't really think it was handled well in this one, with the whole they walk among us, and they didn't really latch on to the paranoia aspect. They just latched on to the some people are assholes and some people are not kind of thing. And it's like CJ said, I'm missing the message that they were trying to tell. It wasn't the actualization of a character. It didn't push the MCU forward that much outside of just giving Gaia mega powers. Outside of that, and having Rhodey finally released and Everett Ross finally released, there's really nothing that has changed from the beginning to the end of the show. And so it didn't push the MCU plot forward like something like Loki did, where Loki definitively ended the sacred timeline. But Sylvie did, technically. And so with that timeline gone, it pushed the MCU plot forward by opening up the multiverse and having it possible that it could exist. Whereas this just didn't really change anything. And so that's why I'm kind of not sure what they were going with here. But let's talk about that Rhodey thing, because First, I want to touch quick on Everett Ross. That's still confusing to me as to when he would have got taken. I assume it had to have been after, Civil War, because they bring him back to Wakanda, and Black Panther, sorry, because they bring him back to Wakanda. You know, he gets shot, and they're looking at they're operating on him. They'd recognize if he was a Skrull. And so you have to assume it's like, ooh, this is a route to Wakanda. That's why we're going to try and replace him. When that happened, we don't really know. Now, with Rhodey being unable to walk, being in a hospital gown, it implies that he has been gone since Civil War. Now, I saw a lot of people saying on Twitter and stuff like that, like, just, that could have been any time he was in a hospital gown. It could have been any random operation. Look at him in Infinity War and Endgame. He's got the leg braces on, and so with that,
And he's bleeding red in Endgame.
and he's bleeding red in Endgame. There you go. But Secret Invasion director was talking with somebody from comicbook.com, I believe, and mentioned how, like, yeah, that was the intent to give that implication is he can't walk and he's in a hospital gown that dates all the way back to Civil War. It definitely seems like that wasn't a plan until something they just decided to throw into this one. What do you think, CJ?
I think that they had no idea they were going to make this show when Civil War was coming out. And I think they probably had no idea the show was going to be made when Endgame was coming out too.
Apparently
So
they did. That's what pisses me off because they talked about it at the press conference. Like,
they
I
did.
guess I think it was in like 2014 or something like that, where it was when the first idea that they were bringing in Skrulls into Captain Marvel, they already had planned, like, I would like to do they said like a gritty, grounded Secret Invasion story, and that's still not even what this turned to be. But like they were talking about at the press conference, it was not Feige, but it was the person who apparently pitched this to him, and it wasn't the main writer or director. It was just like somebody else who's been an executive for a long time, and like apparently this was a long-term plan.
Well, apparently, if this is their long-term planning, they need to get a new long-term manager. Get Taylor Swift on the phone because this is rough. Like, wow, if they've had this planned out since 2014 and this is a product we got, what a complete failure from their end. Like, wow, that's embarrassing. I don't know what to say.
It just feels like, I don't know, it honestly just feels like somebody dropped the ball so bad. Like maybe there was more and it just that would have connected it better and it left it on the cutting room floor. I don't know, but
I mean,
I,
like, it seems like if you're gonna tell this story, you need to like balls to the wall with it. You need to do it, commit to it, make it like crazy. Make We only got like in terms of scroll reveals, we got like what, Ross and Rhodey. That's it. Out of like big players in the MCU, and now they're back to their form already. It's not like it had any big term implications. Like, what was the point? This is a huge ass story. This could have been an Avengers movie. And it should have been that way. They should not have wasted it on whatever this 6 episodes are. Even if it was their plan, when they saw these 6 episodes, they should have said this story needs more respect than these 6 episodes. And they should have went back to the drawing board and taken their L because this was terrible.
being here with CJ and Mark feels like the absolute perfect time to do this. So Adam, I apologize. But you know what an entire episode should have been? That entire episode should have been the goofy thing that they do in Fast and the Furious, where they just recap like an entire movie scene, but plug somebody else in there from a different perspective. And so
Yeah,
they do like in Fast
that would have
and
been
Furious, they
good.
do it with Jason.
Walk away, Adam.
The movie starts. The movie starts with a Fast Five recap, but it plugs in Jason Momoa, and it's like he was here all along.
That's right.
And then it obviously does with Han's death. It's like, oh, just kidding. Look, we were actually right here the whole time and we saved him. But also, it was Jason Statham right here who killed him in the first place. Like they always mix those things in, right?
And here comes Gal Gadot in a submarine.
Exactly. There should have been an entire episode that was like a clip from Shang-Chi, and then it just extends the clip and has the person walk out of the room and turns into their Skrull form and reports back to Gravik. Same thing from another movie. Same thing from another movie. And they should have had that. That should have been an entire episode where they just go throughout the MCU timeline and be like, bam, this was a Skrull. Bam, this was a Skrull.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
That would have been cool. And you could have got like the widows in there, like someone from the Doctor Strange world, some from one of the Sanctums would have been really cool. Like you could have worked into so many different realms of the MCU and they barely touched on it.
And you could go and have a specific scene of like, two Skrulls talking and be like, I had to shapeshift my blood red and make myself look like I was in pain to not give up my cover. And just give them like one of those conversations that can be like, oh, you think that may be a plot hole? Nope, not anymore because we talked about it. But they didn't give us that context. And Adam, like, how do you feel that lack of context is going to affect the Rhodey stuff going forward? Because like, I know this is going to affect you a lot because Tony Stark, Iron Man, is your favorite MCU character. And his best friend no longer knows he even died.
It's like truly I do. I want to say something about that, but I also want to say it is like a huge indictment on the show. Just to build off what the two of you said, that the craziest scroll reveal we've gotten in the MCU was the Far From Home post credit scene when it was revealed that Nick. I remember being like shocked. I was like, "Oh shit!" There was the one reveal I'm not going to hit on too much because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. When Rhodey was revealed to be, that was like the least surprising thing. We all knew that was coming. So. I mean, just a huge failure that there was not one single moment that was even remotely surprising in this show about a reveal for something like that. I mean, just colossal failure. As far as the Rhodey stuff, this is like as mad as I've been with them as to a decision that, like a specific decision that they've made in a while, because you're right. Like Iron Man was like the central figure for me. Like I remember seeing Iron Man 1 in movie theaters when I was like 13 or 14, however old I was. And then like making Tony Stark my entire personality growing up because I just thought he was so cool. So like this, and like part of Tony's journey is like Rhodey is there every step of the way in every part of Rhodey's journey. And like the idea that, I mean, and not only for Tony, for Natasha either, that was just a Skrull who just got shot in the head in a hospital. Like, completely means it feels like a slap in the face to like those of us that have been watching for a while. Like I felt something like many people did when Tony Stark died and when Rhodey looked at him and was fucking crying because the person that had been best friends with him for his entire life just fucking gave his life to save the world. And like we watched Tony grow from somebody that wouldn't have fucking given any part of him to save anybody to then sacrificing himself for the whole world. And like Rhodey got to watch him go on that journey just like we did. So now to just wipe that out is so incredibly frustrating. And then to not, like CJ said, to not even commit to it, to just leave it up to and then have the director come out the day after and be like, well, we were alluding to the fact by doing this, that's kind of what we were pointing. If you're going to make a fucking poor decision, make it and stand on it and be like, you know what? This is our decision. Just have him say, like, the last time have Rhodey wake up and be like, I remember falling out of the sky after Vision blasted my fucking thing. So, like, then we know. Just to leave it up to interpretation. And then also for that interpretation to not even be good. This show has no idea how to do, like, espionage or mystery or anything. Like, the only things that we were worrying about or questioning weren't even exciting things. We were just things we were annoyed about. The Rhodey stuff, I know I just ranted for 5 minutes on a very singular question, but that perfectly encapsulates how I feel about this entire show. It's infuriating.
I can't wait for like 2 years from now when the show was all revealed to be a dream or like some shit like that. Like
dream sequence.
Like they're gonna retcon the shit out of this show.
They're trying to make LMDs of Nick Fury, and they were experimenting on his brain, and this is what was going on in the meantime. But I think that's kind of my issue too, is the lack of commitment to the bit. It's infuriating, as Adam would say. But I'm okay with something like this Rhodey situation where it's like, yeah, that's supposed to suck. It's supposed to have big consequences. We're going to learn all about it in Armor Wars, how this affects Rhodey, and it's supposed to be hard hitting, but it's like you said, they didn't fully commit. They kind of, they allude to it. They, if this turns into something that makes Armor Wars a phenomenal project, I'm not going to complain, but I would have liked to see more commitment throughout this time so we can go back and be like, so it feels like a bigger deal. There are some scenes where it feels like it adds some more context, where it's like the actual moment that Tony dies, Rhodey doesn't look indifferent, but he's definitely not on near the same level of emotional turmoil as Peter or as Pepper. That could be, I feel like when we watched that was attributed to like, well, he's a soldier, he's lost friends before, of course he's sad. But this is another angle you could look at that now. The conversation with Nebula, where she reaches her hand in and it comes out and it's just like her skeleton so that she can get the power stone, and she looks at Rhodey and she says, I wasn't always like this, and he's like, me neither. And we at the time take that to go, I wasn't always a dude in space. I didn't always have a bunch of metal attached to my legs so I could walk. But in additional context, we can now take that as like, I used to have my own skin, living in my own planet, and now I'm fucking this guy. Um, when Carol Danvers shows up after Infinity War and Rhodey is immediately hostile, like, who are you? We're about that superhero life. It makes sense. A Skrull would be a lot more naturally hostile towards Captain Marvel, going, where the hell have you been? Why haven't you been here? As opposed to Rhodey. So there are small things that, like, if you like you add to that context, it's like, ooh, that's kind of cool, but it doesn't feel like they fully dove in a lot. And I do still think most of these issues could have been addressed with just more episodes, more runtime, more context given throughout this show. Mark, what do you think? I haven't asked you about the Rhodey situation yet, have I?
You have not. I'd love to weigh in.
Weigh in. Tell me. Give me your thoughts.
That's the frustrating thing, is I actually don't hate the premise of Rhodey has been a Skrull since Civil War. I think it makes sense because it's a very convenient time to snatch him. He's in a hospital bed. He's immobilized. He's paralyzed. It would be very easy to go in there and start impersonating him. And I know what people will immediately push back with. It's, well, there was no plan at that time to stop cooperating. I can't talk today. Cooperating with Fury. Well, we don't know that. It had been at that point some 20-something years since Fury had made a promise to them. I could see a bunch of Skrulls being a little disinterested and maybe starting their plot early. The issue with me lies with, again, just the execution. It was so obvious that Rhodey was going to be revealed to be a Skrull because he starts acting like an asshole. Like he chooses this point to start acting differently as opposed to before. Why? Because he feels like the plot is Gravik's grand scheme is soon to be executed. It makes no sense for his behavior to start changing. He had been doing such a great job blending in, and like you mentioned, TJ, there were only a couple of instances that you could really say, "Oh, that's suspicious," like him kind of being a little hostile towards Carol Danvers. There are like little nods, but he was just acting like a completely different person and like basically calling Nick Fury a pussy in their sit down. Like, so you can't just explain it away with, oh, well, see, it's been since Civil War and he's going to start acting really hostile and different now. I mean, even in the finale today, he's basically he's calling the other I forget what her title was, but another military member who was in the president's hospital room. He, like, did you take your stupid pills today? Like, he's being a dick, and that's just not something that we saw from Rhodey. He was just such a upstanding citizen and someone who always stood up for what was right. And it makes sense for him. Again, it makes sense for him to want to preserve the Earth. The Skrulls want to inhabit the Earth, so I can see why he wants to fend off Thanos. And again, it's very easy to preserve your cover by, hey, I'm gonna be sad that Tony Stark is dead. These guys were friends. I have this guy's memories. These guys were buddies. So to then completely take a hatchet to the whole premise in the execution, it really boggles my mind, because I wanted this to be the case. Like, hey, someone who you have become very accustomed to, someone who you've come to know and love, has actually been an imposter this whole time. I love that. That was what I thought this series was going to be, and they just completely whiffed on making us actually care, and that's what really sucks.
The biggest thing that bothers me about the Rhodey thing, and it's just kind of coming up now, and I guess you could sell this to me if the premise is that not only did they take Rhodey, they also took whatever wing of the hospital he was being held in. As somebody that's had a couple of surgeries and spent several days in the hospital, they're constantly coming and taking your blood, and they're scanning you for different things. So if they took Rhodey, like, obviously, who had severe spinal injuries, and then like a month later, or whenever he went in for a checkup or whatever, and then or whenever they rescanned him again when he was still at the hospital, and then he's just fine, unless Skrulls You either sell me on then the fact that Skrulls can shapeshift their bones into being broken, or that they just took over the entire wing of the hospital. Rhodey had severe injuries that, like, if any actual doctor or nurses were coming to check on him and scanning him and doing these kinds of things, that would have been like so clearly noted. Oh, this guy is like, he's perfectly fine. You had 5 cracked vertebrae yesterday. Why are you fine now? Like, so I think the only way to sell that is that they took all the people that were also working on him. Otherwise, somebody would have noticed. But that's still like,
there's just so
I
many
can't do it.
unanswered questions, and I want to think too, like going into the Marvels, like are Skrulls even going to be like, are they even going to be Skrulls in the Marvels? We saw at the end of WandaVision, Monica was approached by a Skrull, which led me believe she was going to be in the series. Was not even mentioned in the series. So if we do see Skrulls in the Marvels, where do they fit into everything? Because like the end of the episode, they're on like attack from everyone on Earth, so they're probably, who knows what they're going to do. Like, it's just so messy. And it's supposed to be a prequel to the Marvels. I feel like we're not going to touch on any of this stuff in the Marvels at all. It just seems like such a completely different movie. So,
It seems like
I don't
where they're
know.
going to pick up apparently will basically be Carol is working as like a, I think, ambassador between the Kree and the Skrulls to set an alliance going. But I still don't know which Skrulls are going to come into play, who's going to be in charge of that. It's kind of like everybody keeps alluding to. It's like, but more context, explain that shit to us. You don't have to lay it out word for word, but you have to give us a little bit more. And if these episodes were longer, if there was more of them, I feel like that was really something that they would have been able to dive into. Because it's like you said, Adam, like, tell us what happened with Rhodey. Show us the invasion. Show us the invasion. We know Skrulls are resistant to radiation, and so maybe they have some way of messing up with X-rays so to not actually show properly. Who knows? But let us know. Let us know. And I think that is kind of one of the things that they were lacking on this one. Another thing, of course, was the character deaths, and we've been going for a while on this, and so I feel like I'm just gonna monologue a little bit and then keep us going to the next thing. But like, it really sucks how they handled Maria Hill. We hoped that this could turn into a twist and turn, but really all it did was her death was used to show like the stakes of the situation. That was the entire purpose of her death, and she's somebody who has existed in the MCU basically since the beginning, and people have longed for more of a character arc from Maria Hill because she's a really cool character. In the comics, she becomes the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while. She's wildly capable and has so many different great stories that they could have explored with her, and then she was just gone in the first episode. We get to see her mom grieve, and her mom's never heard from again, and Maria's never seen again. Now, again, who knows? This is the MCU is a long continuing thing forever. Maybe it's not the end of Maria Hill. Maybe she was given some tetrodotoxin B and she's going to come back in the future. But we don't know, and I feel like that is a flaw on this one. And it's the death of Talos wasn't as bad from a logistics standpoint. It kind of seemed like, oh, he's just gone now, and that was a pretty cool moment, but what now? And it wasn't enough time spent with Fury to grieve, with Gaia to grieve. They mention it and then they move on, which more time showing them grieving. It doesn't have to be spent the whole time. Show that this is a time that I'm grieving right now, and then let's spend 10 minutes with Olivia Colman. And get to see her doing something cool while after establishing that this is time that these characters are spent grieving right now. It gives
And we
us,
know that MCU can do that well because in No Way Home, what they did with Peter Parker after Aunt May's death was like perfection in telling that. Like, if you could have had a similar arc to Peter in that way and done that with Fury and Gaia, and that they're fighting for something bigger than themselves now, and that grief is following with them in their journey, and they just did not do that at all, and it was really disappointing.
great pull, because it's exactly that. Like, Peter is absolutely shattered, but then what's done after that? We get to spend time with Toby and Andrew, who we've been longing to spend this time with because they were so great, and we get to see them again. And it pairs with extending that journey, that grief journey for Thomas Peter. So very, very well said in that one. I kind of forget where I'm going to be going with the rest of this because I didn't write a rundown and I was asleep during the time that I was supposed to be writing the rundown. But I think the next thing I want to go with is Olivia Colman, who we talked about specifically, and what could potentially be next for her. Because she was part of MI6. She killed her boss because it was clear that he was a Skrull. She was working with Nick all the way through, and now she's working with Gaia. There's a group from Marvel Comics called MI-13, which is Military Intelligence Section 13, which is basically the superhuman intelligence committee in British intelligence. And so we've seen Black Knight as a member of this team before, and a bunch of other various cool characters. And so it would be Obi is fired up about something. And their job is to deal with paranormal occurrences. And so I think, to me, the most likely place for us to potentially see a nerfed Gaia, for us to see Sonya, and maybe this is where characters like Black Knight and anybody located in the UK could finally start getting brought in together. And I think it would actually make sense for Captain America or Thunderbolts to be the next place that we could potentially see this group. Adam, what do you think? What do you think about the potential beginning of MI-13 getting some of these UK characters who have powers brought together with their own little secret Avengers? Less Avengers, more Thunderbolts style.
Yeah, I mean, it's a cool premise. The only thing that I'm a little hesitant about is kind of like we were talking about earlier. I feel like they've already got a lot of irons in the fire right now. Like to be introducing a whole other group, I'm a little hesitant on. But like, I would love to see her actually kind of be like the anti-Val. Like Val is obviously the one that's like building up all these villains and like doing all this recruiting. Like Nick Fury's had his time to do that. He did that the first 3 phases of the MCU. Let him do whatever he needs to do up in space. That we still have, by the way, we still have no idea what has been wearing. I assume we're going to find out in the Marvels. I also assumed we were going to find out at some point in this show, and I was wrong. So maybe they just don't ever answer that question. But Fury already had his time to recruit everybody, so let him be like a mentor to Sonya Falsworth and let her be not necessarily the new Nick Fury. Obviously, she's her own character, but let her fill that role of like recruiting everybody and bringing everybody together. And she's also very capable herself. I mean, it seems like the direction that they're going is more of a Gaia, Sonya spinoff, cleaning up after the Skrulls that everybody now thinks are terrorists. Of the things that we're talking about, that sounds the least appealing. I would much rather see an MI-13 or see her recruiting heroes than her and And I don't get me wrong, I love Olivia Colman and I love Emilia Clarke, but the premise of more evil Skrulls and then just having those two just cleaning up that doesn't really. I'm a little soured on this whole premise after the show, and I don't think I'm alone in that boat. So I don't really want to see more of that. But she was underutilized in the show, and I agree with you guys. She is an incredible addition. She mentioned before the show that she was was calling her agent every time something Marvel was coming out, talking about get me in the MCU now, get me in the MCU now, and you can tell she's having a great time. Every single scene she's having the time of her life, and they just like wasted that. I mean, she's in the show maybe for 15 or like maybe not even 15, probably 10 minutes total in the entire series. Like it's a waste. I don't know. It's just, I hope they give her something meaningful to do, but truthfully, I'm not all that excited about where it looks like they're going. Any of the other ideas that we pitched, I'd much rather see that.
Yeah, give me Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Olivia Colman fighting over Zemo to join their team. Like, please give me that.
I think I'm picturing Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Sonya Falsworth, Val and Sonya Falsworth, Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Olivia Colman with these competing teams, potentially something like in Thunderbolt. One is trying to protect the other. One is trying to stop the other from getting some vibranium. One is trying to stop the other from getting a new super soldier serum. With what's her face, Sharon Carter involved. I can't believe Sharon Carter wasn't a Skrull in this movie.
I know, that was shocking.
Well, TJ, you know what you're kind of reminding me of right now with this premise is Fast and Furious 6, 2 competing teams.
Please stop. Make it stop.
I was going a little more
It's all in the
Civil War,
family.
but yeah, Fast and the Furious 6, two competing teams, exactly. You're
And now
100.
cast Gal Gadot to play a role where she jumps out of a plane, and we think she doesn't survive, but it turns out in 5 years she actually did survive and saves the planet. It's so
I
good.
mean, I don't know if the Avengers could handle Deckard and Owen Shaw. That might be something that only the Fast family could handle. But
Contractually, they can't.
Contractually,
Jason Statham can never lose a fight with anybody according to his contract. So
This is true.
Statham, The Rock, and Vin Diesel all can't lose any fights. But anyways, that's another whole nother franchise. Back to Marvel. I don't think they're going to be doing anything like them cleaning up the Skrulls, but I do think this is going to be when and if we see more Olivia Colman and Amelia Clark, it's going to be in the potential creation of this MI13 team, and I think that'll maybe be more Sonya than Gaia. I still think Gaia is going to have some kind of arc where she gets nerfed a little bit. Maybe it's in the event, maybe it's in the Marvels. Who knows? But we'll see. We'll see where this all lays out here. We have so much more exciting, fun content coming our ways with Ahsoka only being a month away. We should probably start getting these screeners within the next week, hopefully. I have never been so excited for a show on Disney Plus, and so I'm hoping my expectations aren't going to be too high for this one, but with how much I adore Rebels, I'm assuming that's not going to be an issue. How many episodes of Rebels does everybody have left?
Like 10.
I have, I think I'm on. I've actually already restarted. I rebooted a couple days ago, and then I've been focused on the Secret Invasion stuff. But I'm on season 3, episode 10 or 11, I believe. No.
Okay, so CJ's got to go through season 4 still. Mark, have you seen Rebels?
Oh, I finished Rebels 3 years ago, man.
There it is. Let's go. I do not know how they're going to integrate it and like what kind of recap they're going to give the people, but I'm so wildly excited for this show, whether it's Rebels season 5 or a full deep dive into Ahsoka. I don't care. Those are my two favorite things. And so I'm so wildly excited about that one. And like we mentioned earlier in the show, we're going to be dropping this on the podcast feeds Friday morning, as well as a Barbenheimer bonus episode. But CJ, I want to throw it to you because you guys got a lot of Barbenheimer content coming for Fandom Academy as well.
Yeah, big episode this week covering Barbenheimer with a little musical introduction. I'll tease it to you there. We have a little something planned for that. It should be fun. I'm also 5 episodes through of Heartstopper season 2 right now, so I should have a review of that coming soon. Very exciting stuff there. So definitely stay posted. You can follow me anywhere. CJDarr_. Big stuff coming.
Mark, we recently had a critics episode where Ruben and Isaac were gushing over the new TMNT movie. I know, like, for me, you love all the same stuff I do too, but I feel like you have an additional set of fandom with your Power Rangers and your Ninja Turtles fandoms from being a kid that, like, I feel like I just missed. I don't know how I didn't get it quite the same, but you're full 90s kid, and so this has got to feel pretty good to you that this movie is getting such high praise.
I was getting ready to go to sleep last night and, just scrolling through Twitter, and I saw Ruben's tweet about he had gotten an early screening of Ninja Turtles, and it just made me so excited. I called my shot on this a month ago that I thought this was going to be the best animated movie of the year, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I got some pushback from that because that was right off the heels of Across the Spider-Verse. Some people were like, what are you talking about? And the early reviews have been fantastic, so I'm absolutely so excited for this movie to come out.
Adam says it's me. I'm the pushback in the Twitch chat. Adam, you're in charge of the website stuff right now. You got all this stuff popping. What is some of the good content we have coming the people's way? I know we mentioned Carlos's article on Secret Invasion that's going to be coming. CJ's got a Heartstopper review dropping. I just had my Witcher season 3 volume 2 review up on agentsofandom.com that people will find, and of course Mark's Only Murders in the Building article review is there as well. What else we got coming?
Well, we're not done with Barbenheimer stuff yet. We got a few more Barbenheimer articles coming. We got some animated articles, some articles on animation, box office stuff coming, and we got Ahsoka and everything. A lot of exciting stuff coming for the website. Yeah, and I want to shout out everybody on the team, editorial team, and all the writers and stuff that have been working so hard over the last few weeks to get us good content. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. And then for the audience, I can't tease too much, but everybody's just got to stay tuned to the website, especially as we lead into Ahsoka over these next couple of weeks. We got some really, really exciting stuff planned.
While you're on the website, click over to the store tab, buy some Agents of Fandom merch. Hopefully, we're going to have some Barbenheimer stuff up there shortly as well. And I want to shout out, we recently got the final trailer for The Marvels, and Aisha wrote up an awesome The Marvels trailer breakdown. It seems crazy that movie's not till November, and I think we only have one other movie planned in between now and then. Like, we have shows. There's Ahsoka, there's Loki, season 2, and stuff like that. But I think Blue Beetle's the only one, Adam, that we got on our AOF podcast thing between now and the Marvels. So we're gonna have lots of time to weave in some extra fun games in there. We got Emma saying what's good in chat, and she's saying don't forget to join her book club. Emma's got the Agents of Fandom book club popping, so make sure you check that out as well. And make sure you check out all the shows on the Agents of Fandom podcast network, including us, of course, AOF, Ticket to Reality, Fandom Academy, Listen 3000, and the YouTube shows as well. Critics, Comic Corner. We got so much great stuff popping. Damon's most recent episode, he had Nicole Drum from comicbook.com, one of our favorite people in the entire industry. So make sure you check that out. So much good content. And you can find it all at agentsoffandom.com. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us live today. On behalf of myself, Adam, and our two wonderful guests today, CJ and Mark. Not really guests, they're part of the team. They're not guests, they're just co-hosts who are joining us today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We will see you next week. And that'll do it for today's show. Also, not just on behalf of the 4 people you can see here. You know, there's also Ruben in the background killing it as per usual. Garrett's on his leave right now, but we miss him oh so much. Can't wait for him to get back as well. So shout out everybody involved. We love all of you. I don't have a script in front of me. I told you I napped before the show starts. That's going to do it. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.